I pulled into the driveway at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. My shift at the hospital had run late, 3 emergency admits, to code blues, and a resident who couldn't find a vein to save his life. I was looking forward to a shower, leftover Chinese food, and maybe an episode of something mindless before bed. My key didn't work. I stood there, key halfway into the deadbolt, confused. I'd lived in this house for 29 years. This was my childhood home. I'd moved back in after college to help with expenses while I finished my nursing degree, then stayed, because Mom said she needed me. That was 7 years ago. I tried again. Nothing. I knocked. Mom opened the door with that smile. The one that meant she'd already made a decision and was about to explain why I should be grateful for it. Oh, good. You're home. We need to talk. I stepped inside, my stomach dropped. There were boxers in the hallway. My boxers. I could see my college textbooks, my framed nursing degree, my collection of vintage medical journals from estate sales. What's going on? Come sit down. Sweetie? Mom gestured toward the living room where Dad sat in his recliner, not making eye contact. We have wonderful news. I didn't sit. I stood in the doorway, still holding my work bag. Jessica's moving back home. Mom's voice had that forced enthusiasm, like she was announcing a surprise party I was supposed to be excited about. Isn't that wonderful? Jessica. My older sister, the one who moved to Portland 6 years ago to find herself and had burned through 4 jobs, 3 boyfriends, and who knows how much money. Okay, I said carefully. Where is she going to stay? Mom's smile flickered. Well, that's what we wanted to discuss. She needs the bigger room. She has so much more stuff than you do, and she's going through such a hard time right now. My room. It wasn't a question. Now, before you get upset, where am I supposed to sleep? Dad finally spoke, still looking at his newspaper. The basement guest room is perfectly fine. It's got everything you need. Basement. The room with the tiny window near the ceiling, the concrete walls, the smell of mildew no matter how many dehumidifiers we ran. You gave away my room without asking me. It's not your room, honey. Mom's voice had an edge now. It's our house. We're letting you live here. Letting me, as if I were some charity case. I'd moved into that room when I was 7. I'd painted those walls 3 times lavender in middle school, sage green in high school, the soft gray it was now. I'd replaced the carpet myself 2 years ago. I'd installed the ceiling fan. I'd built the window seat. Where's Jessica now? Upstairs, unpacking. She got in this morning. Mom waved her hand dismissively. She's exhausted from the drive. We thought it would be easier to just get her settled before you got home. Before I could object. That's what she meant. I walked upstairs. My door, Jessica's door, now was closed. I could hear music playing inside. Taylor Swift. Jessica always played Taylor Swift when she was happy. I knocked. Come in. My room looked like a bomb had exploded. Jessica's clothes were everywhere on the bed, draped over my reading chair, covering the floor. My bookshelves were half empty, boxers of my things stacked against the wall. She'd already hung up her posters over my photos. Jessica was sitting on my bed, her bed painting her toenails. Oh, hey. Welcome to my new space. She grinned up at me. Don't worry. I put all your stuff in boxers, super carefully. I looked at my bookshelf. She'd kept my decorative items, the vintage anatomy model, the antique medicine bottles, the succulents I'd been growing for 3 years, but removed every book, every journal, every personal thing. Jessica, this is my room. Was your room? She blew on her toes. Mom said, you wouldn't mind. You're barely here anyway with your crazy work schedule. And honestly, I need this space. Portland was so traumatic. I need room to heal. Traumatic? She'd lost her job at a coffee shop for showing up late too many times. Did anyone think to ask me? Family helps family. Right, that's what Mom always says. She looked up at me with those wide blue eyes. You're not going to make this difficult, are you? I'm really fragile right now. I stood there, looking at 7 years of my life packed into boxers, at my sister painting her nails on my bed, in my room, and I smiled. You're right. Family helps family. Jessica beamed. See? I knew you'd be cool about it. You're the best little sister. I was 32. She was 30. I went downstairs where Mom was making dinner. Lasagna. Jessica's favorite. So we're good? Mom asked, not looking up from the cutting board. We're good. We're good. I knew you'd understand. You've always been so reasonable, so easy. Not like Jessica, she has such strong feelings about things. Strong feelings, that's what we called it when Jessica threw tantrums. The basement room has everything you need, Dad added from his chair. And really? You're barely here. It makes sense. Barely here. I worked 50-hour weeks at the hospital. I was barely anywhere. Where should I put my things? Oh, just stack the boxers downstairs. We'll help you organize this weekend. Mom still wasn't looking at me. Jessica needs our attention right now. She's been through so much. I nodded. I smiled. I went downstairs to the basement room. It was smaller than I remembered. Darker. The bed was old. The mattress sagging. There was a dresser with 3 drawers, a small closet, and that tiny window that barely let in light. The carpet was the original from 1987, brown and musty. This was fine. This was temporary. I started moving boxers down, trip after trip, carrying my life into the basement. Nobody. El pet. I could hear laughter upstairs, Jessica telling stories about Portland, Mom laughing at all the right places. It took me 2 hours to move everything. By the time I finished, they were eating dinner. Oh, you're done. Mom called down. Come eat. I sat at the table. My usual seat, the one by the window, had Jessica's purse on it. Oh, sorry. That's my spot now. Jessica didn't move the purse. The light is better here. I sat in the chair facing the wall. The lasagna was good. Mom had made garlic bread too. Jessica's favorite. So, I'm thinking of starting a wellness blog, Jessica announced. Portland really opened my eyes to holistic living. I'm going to focus on crystal healing and manifestation. That sounds wonderful. Mom beamed. I'll need time to get it set up. Probably a few months before it generates income. A few months? I said nothing. Your sister is so talented, Mom said to me. Not everyone has the creativity for entrepreneurship. I'd worked through nursing school, graduated with honors, and been promoted to charge nurse last year. But, yes, Jessica was the talented one. After dinner, I helped clean up. Jessica went upstairs to Maruntu Center herself. I went to the basement. I lay on the sagging mattress, looking at the ceiling. Water stains marked the corners. I could hear footsteps above me, music playing. Jessica laughing on the phone. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 5 automatic payments. I looked at them the way I'd looked at them hundreds of times before. The first payment, $2,847, labeled Mom-Dad Mortgage. The second payment, $340, labeled Mom-Dad Electric. The third payment, $215, labeled Mom-Dad Water. Fourth payment, $180, labeled Mom-Dad Internet Cable. The fifth payment, $450, labeled Mom-Dad Property Tax Fund. Total, $4,032 per month. I'd set these up 6 years ago, right after Dad's heart attack. He'd been out of work for 8 months. They were going to lose the house. Mom had cried at the kitchen table, bills spread out in front of her, talking about bankruptcy. I was making decent money by then, no hug to help. I'd told them it was temporary, just until Dad recovered. Dad went back to work. They never mentioned the payments. I never stopped making them. 6 years. 70 months. I did the math on my calculator app. $290,304. Almost $300,000. I could have bought my own house, put a down payment on a condo, traveled, saved. Instead, I'd paid for this house. The house where I now lived in the basement. I looked at my phone for a long time. Then I opened my email and pulled up the spreadsheet I'd been keeping. I was meticulous about records and nurse training. Every payment, dated and documented. Every bill, every check, every transfer. I'd paid their mortgage in full 2 months ago. The house was owned outright now. They didn't know that the bank communicated with me since I was the payer of record. I'd paid off their credit cards 3 years ago. $23,000. I'd paid for Dad's new truck last year. $38,000. I'd paid for the kitchen renovation. $18,500. D paid for Jessica's college loans 5 years ago when she defaulted and they'd consigned $31,000. The spreadsheet had everything: dates, amounts, purposes, 6 years of documentation. I took screenshots, backed everything up to 3 different cloud services. Then I went to each automatic payment and hovered my finger over the cancel button. Family helps family, right? I smiled in the darkness of the basement room and pressed cancel. All 5 payments canceled. I set my phone on the bedside table and went to sleep. The next morning, I woke at 5:30 a.m. for my shift. Upstairs, the house was quiet. Primera ma de coffee grabbed a granola bar and left. My phone buzzed at 9:17 a.m. Mom, I was in the middle of changing an IV, so I let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again at 9:23 a.m., again at 9:31. At 9:45. During my break at 10:30, I checked my messages. 11 missed calls, 7 voicemails, 14 text messages. The first voicemail was Mom, confused. Honey, the mortgage company just called. They said this month's payment was canceled. Can you call me? The second was Mom, concerned. It's Mom again. The electric company just sent a disconnection notice. This doesn't make sense. Call me, please. The third was Mom, panicked. Why aren't you answering? The water company called to and the bank. Something's wrong with the accounts. Call me right now. By the 7th voicemail, Mom was crying. The text messages started calm and deteriorated quickly. Call me when you get this. This is urgent. Why aren't you answering? The bank says you've been paying the mortgage. Call me now. This isn't funny. Your father is having chest pains. How could you do this? I put my phone away and went back to work. At lunch, I had 23 missed calls, 19 voicemails, 28 text messages. Now Dad was calling too, and Jessica. Jessica's texts were special. What did you do? Mom is freaking out. Dad looks like he's going to have another heart attack. You need to fix this right now. This is so selfish. How can you do this to your own family? I ate my sandwich and scrolled through them all. One text from Mom stood out. The bank says you've paid $290,000. This can't be real. Call me. I finished my shift at 7 p.m. 41 missed calls by then. I drove home slowly, stopping at Starbucks for a latte. It was 7:45 when I pulled into the driveway. Every light in the house was on. Primera, WH-in. They were all in the living room. Mom on the couch, tissues everywhere. Dad in his chair, face red. Jessica pacing. There she is. Dad's voice was ice. I set my coffee down. Long day. 3 codes, 2 combative patients, and we're short-staffed again. Sit down. Mom's eyes were swollen from crying. I sat. What did you do? Dad asked. I looked at him calmly. I canceled some automatic payments. You what? Jessica stopped pacing. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom and Dad could lose the house. I took a sip of my latte. Actually, they can't. The house is paid off. I paid off the mortgage 2 months ago. The title is clear. Silence. What are you talking about? Mom whispered. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app, turning it so they could see. I've been paying your mortgage for 6 years, $2,847 a month. I paid it off in July. You own the house outright. Mom stared at the screen. You also haven't paid an electric bill, water bill, internet bill, or property taxes in 6 years. I've paid all of that. I scrolled through the payment history. total of $4,032 per month. 472 months. I pulled up the spreadsheet. I have documentation of every payment. The total amount I've paid toward this household is $290,304. That doesn't include the $23,000 I paid on your credit cards, the $38,000 for Dad's truck, the $18,500 for the kitchen renovation, or the $31,000 I paid on Jessica's defaulted student loans that you co-signed for. Jessica's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The grand total I've paid for this family over 6 years is $400,804. Mom was shaking her head. That's not, we didn't ask you to, ... You didn't ask, you never asked, and you never said thank you either. I smiled. But that's okay. Family helps family. So what? You're just going to stop? Dad's face was getting redder. You're going to throw us out on the street? The house is paid off, Dad. Nobody's being thrown anywhere. But yes, I've stopped making payments. You'll need to pay your own electric bill, your own water, your own internet, your own property taxes. We can't afford that. Mom was crying again. You know your father's income. Dad makes $71,000 a year. You make $43,000 as an office manager. Your combined income is $114,000. Your house is paid off. You have no mortgage payment. You can absolutely afford a $1,200 monthly utility and tax bill. That's not the point. Jessica jumped in. You can't just abandon your family. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Jessica, when was the last time you paid for anything in this house? I just got here. Before that, when you lived here before, did you ever pay rent? Utilities? Groceries? She crossed her arms. I was finding myself. For 6 years in Portland, did you send Mom and Dad any money? Any support? Her jaw clenched. I was struggling. Did you know I was paying their mortgage? No. But, did you know I paid off your student loans? The $31,000 you defaulted on that almost ruined their credit. She went pale. How did you? I have bank statements. I have everything. I looked at Mom and Dad. Did you tell her I paid her loans? Mom looked away. You told her they were taken care of, didn't you? You didn't tell her I paid them? I stood up. Just like you didn't tell me you were giving away my room. You just did it. Because I'm easy. Because I don't complain. Because I always help. You're being incredibly selfish right now, Dad said. We raised you. We put a roof over your head. For the first 18 years, yes, for the last 6 years, I've put a roof over yours. I picked up my coffee. I'm going to the basement now. My new room. The one I didn't choose. I have another 12-hour shift tomorrow. Good night. Wait. Mom stood up. We need to talk about this. We can talk about it this weekend, after you've had time to process. I paused at the basement door. Oh, and Jessica, I'd start looking for a job. I have a feeling Mom and Dad are going to need help with bills now. I went downstairs and closed the door. I could hear them arguing above me. Jessica's voice, shrill and panicked. Mom crying. Dad's low, angry rumble. My phone buzzed. Dad, this is financial abuse. I laughed. Actually laughed. I typed back. Financial abuse is when someone controls your money. I've been giving you money. I've now stopped. That's called boundaries. He didn't respond. Jessica texted. Mom is having a panic attack because of you. Me. Mom is having a panic attack because she has to pay her own bills. Jessica, you're a horrible person. Me, and yet I paid your student loans. She stopped texting. I showered and got into bed. The mattress was still terrible. The room still smelled like mildew, but I slept better than I had in weeks. The next day at work, my phone was mercifully quiet until lunch. Then, Mom calling. I answered. Hi, Mom. We need to talk about this like adults. Her voice was strained, controlled. Okay. You can't just cut us off without warning. That's not how family works. I didn't cut you off. I stopped paying your bills. There's a difference. You know what I mean. We budget based on, she stopped. Based on money I never agreed to give you permanently. Silence. Mom, when I started making those payments, Dad had just had a heart attack. You were about to lose the house. I helped? That was 6 years ago. Dad's been back to work for over 5 years. You never once said, thank you, we can take over now. You just kept letting me pay. We thought you wanted to help. I did want to help during the emergency, but it's been 6 years, Mom. 6 years of almost my entire paycheck going to this house. A house where I now sleep in the basement because you gave my room away without asking. It's just a room. It's not about the room. I was surprised by my own voice. Primera, lowered, Italiano. It's about being treated like I matter. Like my space matters. Like my money matters. Like I matter. I heard her breath catch. You want me to keep paying your bills? That's fine. Let's draw up a contract. Fair market rent for the basement room. Utilities split 3 ways now that Jessica's here, and I'll pay 1/3 of property taxes. That comes to about $1,100 a month. I'll pay that. But I'm done paying your mortgage, your full utilities, your property taxes, and subsidizing Jessica's finding herself, period. That's not. Mom stopped. We can't afford that. Then Jessica needs to get a job and contribute. She's fragile right now. She's 35 years old. Mom. When does she stop being fragile and start being responsible? No answer. Abe, to go. I have a patient calling. I didn't, but I was done. Wait, electric bill is due tomorrow. Then I'd pay it if I were you. They disconnect pretty quickly. I hung up. That night, I came home to another family meeting. This time, there was someone else there. Jessica's ex-boyfriend from Portland, Kyle. Apparently he'd driven 14 hours to help her move the rest of her stuff. He was sitting in my old spot at the dinner table. Oh, good. You're home, Mom said. Kyle is staying for a few days. On the couch? I asked. Actually, double quotes Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. We were thinking he could stay in the basement. You're barely there anyway. And, no. Everyone looked at me. No. Mom's eyebrows went up. That's my room. I sleep there. He can't have it. It's just for a few days. Jessica went. God, you're being so difficult. Get a hotel. We can't afford a hotel. Jessica's voice went shrill. In case you haven't noticed, you've completely screwed this family financially. I looked at Kyle. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. How much do hotels cost in Portland? I asked him. I don't know. Like $80 a night? And you drove 14 hours to help Jessica move? Yeah. So you were planning to stay a few days. That's, what, 4 nights? $320. He nodded slowly. I've paid $290,304 to this household. I think $320 for a hotel is reasonable. Jessica exploded. Everything isn't about money. You're right. It's about boundaries. And my boundary is that a stranger is not sleeping in my room. He's not a stranger. He's Kyle. I've never met him before tonight. That makes him a stranger. I looked at Mom and Dad. Is he staying here? Dad stood up. Now, you listen here. Is a man I don't know moving into my bedroom? It's the guest room, Mom said quietly. It's my room. You moved me there. Remember? 3 days ago? They remembered. If Kyle stays in that room, I'm getting a hotel, and I'm not paying rent for a room I'm not sleeping in. Your choice. I went to the kitchen and made a sandwich. Behind me, urgent whispers. Jessica, crying. Kyle saying, maybe he should just go. 20 minutes later, I heard a car start. Kyle left. Jessica stomped upstairs to my old room and slammed the door. Mom appeared in the kitchen doorway. Happy now? Not particularly. I am making a sandwich in a house I've paid $400,000 toward while living in a basement room. But I'm not letting a stranger sleep in my bed, so there's that. Jessica needed support. Jessica needs a job. I took a bite of sandwich, and so does Kyle, apparently. Mom left. I finished my sandwich in the quiet kitchen and went to the basement. Friday afternoon, I got off work early. Budget cuts meant reduced hours, which meant reduced pay, which meant I needed to seriously reconsider my living situation. I came home at 3 p.m. and heard voices in the living room. A lot of voices. I walked in to find Mom, Dad, Jessica, and 4 other people I hadn't seen in years. Aunt Sarah, Uncle Tom, Cousin Michelle, and Grandma. An intervention. They'd staged an intervention. Oh, good. She's here. Aunt Sarah stood up. She'd always been the family enforcer. Sit down, sweetie. We need to talk. I stayed standing. About what? About how you're treating your parents. I looked around the room. Who called this meeting? I did, Mom said. I needed family support. For what? For dealing with your financial abuse, Aunt Sarah said. There it was again. Financial abuse. Explain to me how paying someone's mortgage for 6 years is abuse. Holding it over their heads is, Grandma said. Family doesn't keep score. I laughed. I couldn't help it. What's funny? Uncle Tom asked. Family doesn't keep score. That's funny. I pulled out my phone. I don't keep score. I keep records. Would you like to see them? I pulled up the spreadsheet and turned my phone around. 6 years of payments. $290,304 in mortgage payments alone. $23,000 in credit card debt. $38,000 for a truck. $18,500 for a kitchen. $31,000 for Jessica's student loans. Total $400,804. Aunt Sarah squinted at the screen. That can't be right. It is. I have bank statements to prove every payment. Why would you pay all that? Cousin Michelle asked. Because they needed help. Dad had a heart attack. They were going to lose the house. 6 years ago? Grandma said softly. Yes. And you never stopped. No. Because nobody ever said, thank you, we can take it from here. They just let me keep paying. The room was quiet. But that doesn't give you the right to abandon them now, Aunt Sarah said, but her voice had less conviction. I haven't abandoned them. The house is paid off. Because of me, I'm still living here. Just asked to pay fair rent instead of the entire mortgage. How is that abandonment? You did it to punish them for giving your room to Jessica. Mom said. No. I did it because I've been financially supporting 3 adults now, 4 on a nurse's salary for 6 years, and I am exhausted. I did it because nobody even asked if I minded giving up my room. I did it because I realized, if I don't set boundaries now, I'll be funding everyone's lives forever. Family takes care of family, Grandma said. Then where was Jessica for 6 years? Where was her contribution? Where's her support? I looked at my sister, who was staring at the floor. She didn't even know I paid her student loans. Nobody told her, because then she'd feel obligated, right? Better to keep it secret so she can keep living guilt-free. Jessica's face flushed. You know what? I'm done with this conversation. I headed toward the basement. Wait. Mom stood up. We haven't resolved anything. There's nothing to resolve. You pay your bills from now on. I pay fair rent. Jessica gets a job. We all act like adults. I stopped at the door. Oh, and maybe next time you stage an intervention, do it somewhere other than the house I paid for. I went downstairs and closed the door. Above me, voices erupted, arguing, crying, loud discussion. My phone buzzed. Cousin Michelle. Hey, I didn't know about the payments. That's actually insane. Good for you for standing up. Then Aunt Sarah. Your mother is impossible. Call me if you need anything. Then Uncle Tom. Just saw the bank statements your mom showed everyone. Jesus Christ. You're a saint. Maybe the intervention had backfired. Saturday morning, I woke to silence. The house felt empty. I went upstairs. Nobody there. A note on the counter in Mom's handwriting. Gone to Jessica's job interviews. Back tonight. Job interviews. Plural. Progress. I made coffee and sat in the kitchen. My kitchen. The one I'd paid to renovate. The doorbell rang at 10 a.m. A woman in business casual stood on the porch, clipboard in hand. Hi, I'm Rebecca from First National. I'm looking for ... double quotes. She checked her clipboard. The homeowner. I have some questions about the mortgage payoff. That would be me. I'm the one who paid it. Her eyebrows went up. Oh. I actually need to speak with the deed holders. Mr. and Mrs. They're not home. But I'm the one who made every payment for 6 years. I'm the one who paid it off. What do you need? She looked uncomfortable. We're trying to confirm some details about the accelerated payoff. There are tax implications and the deed is in their names. I paid the mortgage. All documentation should be in order. Is there a problem? No problem. Just confirming. We'll follow up with them directly. She smiled. Professional. But just so I understand, you paid off your parents' mortgage? I did. Wow. That's incredibly generous. It was necessary at the time. She glanced past me into the house. Do you live here? In the basement? Her smile faltered. I'm sorry. I live in the basement. My parents gave my room to my sister. She stared at me. After I paid off their mortgage. She blinked. I shouldn't comment on personal matters. But you're thinking it's absurd. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I smiled. If you need their signatures, they'll be back tonight. You can call first. She nodded and left, still looking baffled. I closed the door and laughed. An outside observer, someone who saw the situation with fresh eyes, and even she thought it was insane. Maybe I wasn't crazy after all. They came home at 4 p.m. Jessica had 2 job offers, one at a retail store, one at a medical office as a receptionist. The medical office pays better, I said when Mom told me, and they usually have good benefits. Jessica nodded, subdued. I'm taking that one. I start Monday. That's great. Silence. Look, Jessica said finally, I didn't know about the loans. About any of it. I know. Mom said you never wanted credit, that you liked helping quietly. I looked at Mom. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I did help quietly, but that doesn't mean I wanted to be taken advantage of. I wasn't trying to. Jessica stopped. Okay, I wasn't trying to, but I did. I took advantage. I'm sorry. It wasn't much. But it was something. Thank you. I'll start paying rent once I get my first check. 1/3 of utilities too. Okay. Mom was crying silently at the table. Dad finally spoke. We owe you an apology too. I waited. We got comfortable. You made things so easy. We just kept letting you. That wasn't right. No, it wasn't. And we shouldn't have given away your room without asking. That was wrong. I nodded. So what do we do now? Mom asked. Now, Jessica starts her job. You both budget for your bills. I pay $1,100 rent for the basement room. We figure out how to be a family without me being the bank. What if we can't afford it? Mom whispered. Then, Jessica pays her share, and you tighten your budget. You own your house outright, Mom. Do you know how many people would kill for that? You have 0 housing payment. You'll be fine. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Can I ask you something? Dad said. Sure. Why did you keep paying? For 6 years. Why not stop sooner? I thought about it. Because you needed help, and because I thought if I helped enough, proved myself enough, maybe I'd finally feel like I mattered, like I was important to this family. Mom sobbed. But I realized something this week. My worth isn't measured in what I pay for. And if the only way I matter is by funding everyone's life, then I don't actually matter at all. The kitchen was silent except for Mom's crying. For what it's worth, Dad said quietly, You matter. You've always mattered. We just took you for granted. And that's on us. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was acknowledgement. And that was enough for now. Monday morning, Jessica went to her new job. Tuesday, the first utility bills in Mom and Dad's names in 6 years arrived. Wednesday, Mom opened a budgeting spreadsheet. Thursday, Jessica got her first paycheck and immediately paid her share of utilities. Friday, I started looking at apartments, not because I was angry, not because I wanted revenge, because I deserved more than a basement room in a house I'd paid for, because I deserved to invest in my own future instead of everyone else's. Because I mattered. Saturday morning, I found a one-bedroom condo 10 minutes from the hospital, $1,400 a month. Utilities included washer and dryer in unit, available November 1st. I put down the deposit. When I told them at dinner, Mom cried again. But this time she also said, I understand, and I'm proud of you. Jessica hugged me and said, come over for dinner sometimes. Dad nodded and said, you'll always have a room here, your real room. We'll convert the basement into storage. What about my room? Jessica asked. You can stay until you save enough for your own place, Mom said. But long term, that's your sister's room. We owe her that much. Jessica looked at me. I looked at her. I'll probably be out in 3 months anyway, she said. The medical office has good pay. I can save up. I smiled. That's great, Jess. And I meant it. I moved out November 1st. Mom, Dad, and Jessica helped. We ordered pizza after, sat in my new living room on folding chairs and ate from the box. It felt like a new beginning. Not perfect, not healed, but honest. And that was more valuable than any amount of money I'd ever paid. My phone buzzed that night after they left. Mom, thank you for everything. I know we don't deserve it, but thank you. Me, you're welcome. I love you, Mom. I love you too. More than you know. I set my phone down and looked around my condo. My space, my name on the lease, my furniture, my rules, my life. I'd paid $400,804 for this moment, for the realization that I was worth more than my bank account, for the strength to walk away from being needed to being chosen, for the understanding that helping family is beautiful, but losing yourself in the process is not. My phone buzzed again. Jessica, your new place is really nice. I'm sorry it took us so long to get here. See you Sunday for dinner? Me, definitely. Bring wine, Jessica dun. Love you, little sis, me love you too. I smiled in the quiet of my living room. They were paying their own bills now. Jessica was working. Mom and Dad were budgeting. And I was here, in my own space, finally, investing in myself. Family helps family. But now, finally, I was helping me, and that made all the difference.